What's up, Gator fans? So in this video, we're going to be talking about the game that Florida played last night against Long Island. Florida did what they were supposed to do, 55-0. It's the first shutout Florida has had since Vanderbilt in 2021, which was Dan Mullen's final year with the Gators. And Billy Napier got his first shutout victory last night. A lot of young players and backup guys got a chance to play in the game. It was really what you expected, but the thing is, you could have put up more. I think Florida could actually have put up more points against LIU than they actually did way before the end of the game. But we're going to get into that in this breakdown. So, first drive, Long Island takes the ball to start the game. Forced fumble by the defense. Bryce Thornton scooping scores for his first touchdown of the year on a 38-yard fumble return. LIU punts, gives the ball back to the offense. DJ Lightweight moves down the NJ. The ball moved the ball down the field. And the ball takes it in for a score. Florida gets the ball back after another LIU punt. Trey Smack misses a 40-yard field goal. That's a problem, because Trey Smack will go on to miss 3 field goals throughout this game: a 40-yarder, a 39-yarder, and a 57-yarder. That's going to be an issue when you got these big games that are coming up in a couple of weeks, starting with LSU, who we'll talk a little bit about later on in this video. Trey Smack's got to get I've told Gator fans this ever since he missed that field goal against Arkansas. That dude has never been the same mentally since then. He has been off and on and off and on, especially in the critical moments. That's going to be a problem, and Napier needs to address that. But anyway, in the first half, Florida goes into halftime up 38-0. Vernell Brown III, the freshman receiver, a legacy Gator, whose dad and grandfather played at the University of Florida, he to me was the best player of this game for Florida, which is saying a lot because a lot of guys made a lot of plays today. He showed out the most. He made that fantastic one-handed catch where he was literally falling backward and his body is damn near parallel with the ground, and he snags that ball, and if snags the ball out of the air. And if you look on one of the photos of him making the catch, he doesn't even see the ball. He's trying to look back. He damn near has to roll his eyes into the back of his head to even see where the ball is at, and he makes that great catch. There was some debate about whether or not it was better than the Ricky Pearsall catch. I'm gonna give that one to Ricky. I'm gonna give it to Ricky Pearsall because he got clobbered by the Charlotte defensive backs. But it was still a great play by Vernell Brown. Not only did he show good yards at the catch ability and good ability to make the tough catches, he was fantastic on special team returns, on punt returns. He averaged 26.8 yards returned. That's insane to be able to do that. He really played well last night. Another guy who played well last night was also the defense. There's a lot of defensive players who went out there and had a big game. You had freshman Jaden Woods, who has been getting rave reviews throughout the off-season training camps. He had a tackle for loss. A bunch of great Gator defenders were flying around the football, played phenomenal. The backup quarterback to DJ Lightweight, Ramon Jones, the freshman that Florida flipped from Florida State last year, came in at halftime and put in some very good throws. Had a little hiccup every now and then, but he's a true freshman. He's about 18 years old, playing in his first big game. Well, not really a big game because it's an FCS opponent, but playing in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the first time in his life, you kind of expected some hiccups, but overall, it was a very good performance by him in the second half. Tony Livingston got a touchdown from him. He had a nice outing in the game. Some running backs like Anthony Rubio, Marco Rubio's son, got some reps in. Duke Clark, a freshman running back, was able to get some reps in. Florida did not play some other key members of the team. Ben Hanks Jr., Tyreek Sapp, Caleb Banks, Drake Stubbs, Dallas Wilson, in Mizell. There was a few Gator players that did not play in the game last night against Long Island, and Florida was able to, steamroll them like they should have. They don't get a cookie for that, but there's some good positives to come out of this game. Now, here are the negatives. DJ Lagway, you gotta stop taking unnecessary hits, man. Throw the ball away, slide, run out of bounds. Do not take unnecessary hits when you don't have to. The commentator for Gators Radio, Shane Matthews, said it. Dude, you're coming off of injuries. You're coming off of injuries last year. You've been injured a little bit throughout camp. Protect yourself. Preserve yourself for the football team, because obviously they're going to need you when the big games start rolling in week 3 and beyond. That's an issue. I talked about Trey Smack. He's an issue. 3 field goals against Long Island when the game wasn't even in doubt. Then how are you going to kick when you got some big games coming up in the big moments? You got to fix that. Another issue, Billy Napier, in my opinion, could have put up 2 more touchdowns in that first half when Florida was driving the ball down the field, but his red zone play calling gets conservative. And people are going to say, well, against Long Island, you're not going to really open the playbook up. Yeah, but for a team that's in year 4 under a head coach, I expect better, clean play, more efficient play in the red zone. And I don't want to hear the excuse about, well, you're not going to open up the playbook against LIU. I don't care. Be efficient. Be successful in the red zone. Finish off drives. Because if you're not taking it seriously now, then it's going to come back and bite you later on throughout the season. So those are my negatives regarding the game. Other positives, no major injuries. Thank goodness for that. No penalties, which really is surprising. Very few penalties in this game, and all of them were on LIU, that's pretty impressive. Another positive is that the Gator fan base showed out. They sold out the LIU game, which is normally you would expect that for the big games, but for LIU, they were electric, and they definitely had an impact on some of the plays that LIU was plays that LIU dialed up, because some of the offensive linemen couldn't even hear the snap, couldn't hear the quarterback clap to snap the ball. So great showing by the Gator faithful. Overall, it was what you expected, 55-0, a blowout performance. And the fact that that Florida came out of it with no major injuries, because next week you're going to step up in weight classes to face South Florida, which is a group of 5 school. But Alex Golesh seems to have the South Florida Bulls heading in a much higher projection and trajectory than they were under Jeff Scott. Alex Golesh in South Florida looked pretty good against Boise State, but Boise State is not the Florida Gators. That's just a fact. Talent-wise, from a coaching staff's perspective, from strength and conditioning to the recruiting, and USF was at home, in which South Florida, quite frankly, I saw that game. The attendance in that South Florida Boise State game was not that great. And they're going to be on the road in Gainesville with a hyped-up crowd at about 4:00 p.m. on the SEC Network next Saturday. So, big test for South Florida, and another nice little game for Florida to play before they go on the road at Baton Rouge the week after the South Florida game. And by the way, LSU went on the road and beat Clemson last night, and I'm actually kind of glad that they did, because now this is an even better test of what the Florida team is made of. Because if LSU loses to Clemson, then you can argue, well, maybe LSU is just not that good. No, that LSU team looked really good last night on the road at the Clemson Tigers, and I think it's going to validate whether or not this is going to be a very good or a very mediocre Florida team. So I'm excited for that game in a couple of weeks. It's the biggest road game of Billy Napier's career, and we'll see what happens when we get there. But overall, excellent performance. It was what we expected as Gator fans. 55-0 over Long Island. The Florida Gators under Billy Napier finally get their first shutout.